Hello everyone. I suppose you have seen part 1 and part 2 of Python fundamentals. So we learned certain things theoretically there. In this part of the video, I will be showing you all those things that you have learned in part 1 and part 2, but we are going to do it practically. So whatever we have seen it previously, now we will see it in a Python platform. Okay, so once you have downloaded your Anaconda distribution and you click on the Spyder IDE, this is the screen that you are going to be seeing. Okay, so before I actually get into the coding lines, let me just explain the screen to you. So you will get a screen something like this, and you will have certain things opened up here. Now this area is the area where you will be writing the script. You remember me telling you that Python can be worked in interactive mode and script mode. What was the difference? In an interactive mode, each statement of Python is executed one at a time. Whereas in a script mode, you could write a couple of lines and put it into a file with an extension .py and then execute all of them one after the other. Is that clear? So instead of executing individual lines, I could have 10 lines and all of them will be executed one after the other. So this current area that you see here, whatever is drawn in blue that you see here, is the script mode. And what I show you here, this area, this entire area is your interactive mode. Okay, this is the prompt that you will see when you have to work on interactive mode. This is only with respect to Spyder IDE. Different platforms will have it slightly different. Is that clear? So if I want to write a script file, I will have to write it in this blue area. And if I want to execute it in an interactive mode, I would do it here. Is that clear? Another important thing that you need to remember is the minute you start Spyder IDE, a particular file is already open to you with the name temp.py. You may see others opened here as well. I will just tell you why I have opened them. But otherwise, when you all open it for the first time, you will only see one file, and that file will automatically have an extension .py, and the name of the file will be temp. Okay, so this is the area where I'll be doing the coding. Now, apart from the interactive mode being there to execute one statement at a time, it is also the area where you see the result of your program. That means if you've written a program to add two numbers, the result of the addition is also going to be seen in the interactive section. Is that clear? So I hope this screen is clear with you. Okay, so let me just clear the annotations and then continue with what I had to tell you. Okay, we had learned that when I write A is equal to 10, okay, and I write B is equal to 10, and let's say I write C is equal to 5.5, okay, or let me just change some names, kind of data. So now how many variables have I created in my program according to what we learned previously? I have 3 variables in my program, A, B, and C. A, speaking of an integer, because 10 has no decimal places. B, speaking of a string, because RAM is written in double quotes. C, speaking of floating point number, because you see a decimal point there. Okay, just to show you everything that we have learned, let me just write D is equal to 10. Okay, now in this scenario, if I write print, why was print used? To display the values, okay? I write A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D. Okay, if I write print A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D, what does that mean? That I need to print the values of A, values of B, values of C, and value of D. Okay, so and where is it going to be printed? I told you in the interactive mode. That's also called the Python console. Okay, so let me just run the program. Okay, so can you see here? Can you see here what it has displayed for you? 10, RAM, 5.5, and 10 again. Because you said A, B, C, D, and those were the values of A, B, C, D. Can you see a space between the value of A and the value of B and C and D? Yes, because we had learned that there was a parameter called sep in the print function, which is by default a space. And that is the reason I see a space between each of these elements. If I write sep is not space, I'm changing its value and I write @ sign. Then see what happens when I run the program. Can you see 10 at the rate RAM at the rate 5.5 at the rate 10? So I hope you understood what the SEP parameter means, okay? That if you need to display a particular character between the elements that you print, if you're only printing one element, then SEP has no specific role. But if you're printing many elements and if you want some specific characters to be displayed between them, then you specify it in the SEP parameter, okay? We don't generally make use of this. So this is about printing the values of A, B, C, D. Okay. Suppose instead of printing the values, I wrote print and I write type A, comma, type B, comma, type C, comma, type D. Okay, what did we learn about the type built-in function? Type tells you the kind of data these variables refer to. So, kind of data these variables refer to. A is referring to an integer. B is referring to a string, which is basically an str. C is referring to a float. D is referring to an integer. Let me just run this program once again. Okay, so can you see the first line saying 10, RAM, 5.5 and 10? That's because you have written print A, B, C, D. The next line tells you class int because A is referring to an integer. Next one says class str, class float and class int once again. And if you remember what I had taught you in the earlier, sessions or parts, this was, let's say, variable 10. Okay, stored somewhere in memory, and who's referring to it? A. And I told you, what if it's at address location 1011? I don't know, it could be any random number. Then what would this mean? RAM is in memory, and who's pointing to it? B. Similarly, C would point to 5.5. That is not my thing that I want to emphasize here, but D would again point to 10 because A and D are talking about the same memory location, which is having the value 10. Now, how do I know that this is valid? What I'm saying is valid. We can make use of another built-in function named as ID. ID refers to the memory or gives you the memory location a particular variable refers to. So, if I write print and instead of type, okay, I write ID in bracket A, comma, ID in bracket B, comma, ID in bracket C, comma, ID in bracket D. Like we said, A should give me some memory location, B should give me something different, C should give me something different, but D should give me the same one as A. Why? Because they are referring to the same element 10. So obviously the memory location they are pointing to is also going to be the same. So let's just run that, and let me just remove these because we are not really interested in this. We've already seen it before. So when I print, can you see, this is important for me, can you see the same number here being repeated for D as well? And the reason being because both are referring to the same element. So that means if you have many variables referring to the same value, that value is stored only once in memory, and all these are referring to it. Okay, after doing this, okay, let's say after doing this, now I say D is equal to 15. Okay, that means what? D is not referring to 10 anymore, and now D is referring to 15. Then in that scenario, if I say print ID of D, then what does it show? Okay, let's just run the program once again. Okay, so we saw here A and D were the same initially. Then when I said D is equal to 15, what does that mean? Somewhere else in memory, there is 15 stored and D is referring to that memory location. And that is the reason the next line definitely shows me another address location. So not the 280 anymore. I'm just looking at the last 3 digits, but it's showing me 440. So I hope the concept of variables and the value it stores you have understood. Okay, so values are stored somewhere in memory. these variables are only referring to these memory locations. If the value is the same, then multiple variables will refer to the same location. If the values are different, then definitely different locations. In this example, we saw D was referring to the same memory location as A. Later on, we shifted D to another memory location. So this is about variables, and variables get created in memory. That means A, B, C, D gets created in memory the first time you assign a value to it. After you have assigned a value to it, now for example, in this scenario, when I wrote D is equal to 15, I am not creating variable D once again. D was already created. I'm just shifting it from 10 to the memory location of 15. Clear? Then there's another thing that we learned was the len function. What was the len function doing? Len function was giving me the length of the string. So if I write print len, now string, so I can't write A and C and D because that doesn't make sense. They are not strings. I'll have to write B. So I write len, and because it's a function, the bracket is a must, len in bracket B. And when I write that, let's see what it gives me. It gives me 3. Why? Because there are 3 elements in the string. Okay, let me just work on this a little more. Let's assume the string was RAM/N and BYE. Okay, so accordingly, you see here RAM/NBYE. So it should give you how much? 8, but it won't give me 8, it's going to give me 7. Why? Because /n is an escape character or escape sequence character. So what happens in that scenario? It's treated as one character. Okay, so let's just run the program and see what happens. Can you see you did not get 8, but instead you got 7 because /n together was treated as a single character. I'll also show you here what /n would do. Now if I say print B, that means it should display the value of B. So displaying the value of B, now see what exactly happens and I'll explain something to you. Can you see Ram and Bai coming on 2 different lines here? The reason being /n's role is new line character. Everything that you write after /n is going to be on a different line. So you got Ram there and then you got the word BYE. Is that clear? But remember, both were stored in a string whose name is B. Is that clear? Okay. Then what did we learn? The last few things that we learned in those previous videos is a function named as input and a function named as print. What was the role of the input function? If I need to accept any data or take any data from the user, I will make use of the input function. Print we already saw. Print is used to display. Is that clear? So let me just clear my annotations from the screen and then take you to some statement. Let's assume I'm reading the name and the percentage of a student. So I write name is equal to input and a message that I would want to put forward to the user. So I say enter your name. Okay, and then I have percentage is equal to, if I write input, enter your percentage. If I write this, okay, now, is there something wrong in this line? Yes, because we have learned the input function reads everything that the user enters as a string. Do I need percentage to be treated as a string? No, I know it has a number. I mean, it could have a number with a decimal point. So I want it to be treated as a float. So what did we learn? We will just write the float function before the input function. So now I got the name and the percentage of a student. Now I want to display, let's say the name entered by the user is Pooja and percentage entered is 75.5. So I want to say Pooja has secured 75.5%. Okay, so how do I write my print command? I write print name. When I put comma, that means first it will display the name of the person that was entered by the user. Then I write the message has secured. After that, what did I want to show? His percentage, or I mean the child's percentage. The child's percentage is stored in a variable named as PERC. And after that, I wanted to show the percentage symbol. So I write percentage symbol. So can you see I have actually displayed 4 elements in the print. In the previous example, we wrote print A, comma B, comma C, comma D. All 4 of them were variables. That is why you did not put them in quotes. There was no string associated with it, though B was holding a string, but B was the name of a variable. Here, has secured, I have written in quotes, percentage sign, I've written in quotes, because these are string literals. I need these things to be displayed. But whose name will I display depends upon what the user entered, and what percentage will I display will also depend on what the user has entered. Is that clear? So let me just execute this program for you. Yes, it'll ask me a message, enter your name. Now, why did this appear? Because of what you wrote here. If you write enter thy name, I will get a message, enter thy name. So whatever you write in the bracket of the input function is what the user says while he's executing the program. Is that clear? So it's asking me enter the name, and I was talking about Pooja. So let me continue with Pooja's name. And did you realize it did not ask me enter your percentage yet? Reason being, the first line said enter your name. It's executing line by line. So I entered the name. Next, when I press the enter key, it's asking me enter the percentage. And what did I say? Pooja's percentage I'm going to write as 75.5. And then what should happen? A display should happen depending on print. Can you see a message saying Pooja has secured 75.5%? Is that clear? So with this example, I want to make sure that you understood the role of the input function and the role of the print function. Is that clear? Okay, so let's look at another program. I have just put up the program here so that I don't waste time writing the question, and you have the question on the screen, so you're not thinking about what was the question ma'am said. Is that clear? So now it says, write a program to read the length and the breadth of a rectangle, and you'll calculate the area of the rectangle. Okay, so if I have to calculate the area of a rectangle, what are the 2 things that I would wish the user enters is the length and the breadth. How do you get data from the user? By making use of the input function. Now, can length and breadth be a string? No. So I don't want to take it just with the input function. Can it be an integer? Yes. But can it have decimal places? Yes. So better to use float. So I write L is equal to, now it's up to you. What do you want to call your variables? I write L is equal to float in bracket input in bracket enter the length. Okay, now it's up to you what you would want to call the variable that stores length. Like I told you in my first class, some may call it L, some may call it len, some may call it length. It's up to you, but what you use is what you will be using throughout the program. I'm calling it lnb. So b is equal to float in bracket input in bracket, and the message that I want to send to the user is enter the breadth. So I've asked the user to enter the length, and I've asked the user to enter the breadth. And what is the function used to get data from the user is the input function. But remember, input takes everything as a string. So what is this float function doing? Is going to be converting whatever data the user has entered into a float, as long as it's a number that he has entered. And obviously, why would I enter anything else when somebody's asking me the length and the breadth of a rectangle? Okay, so now I have got the length and the breadth. It asks me to calculate the area. So next is my calculation line. So I write A is equal to, now how do we calculate the area of a rectangle? We know the formula. It's length multiplied by breadth. Where is length stored in my variable, in my program? L, multiplication sign. And where is breadth stored in my program? In B. Now remember, if you had len and bre or length and breadth, you will have to write so. I have used it as lnb. Okay, so I'm writing lnb. And what is A standing for? A is the calculation of length multiplied by breadth. That is nothing but the calculation of area. So finally, where is the answer now? Is it in L? No. Is it in B? No. Then where is it? In A. So I have to display what is in A. If I write this line, print A, it would be fine. Now, if I wrote small a, Okay, it will fetch an error for me when I run the program. You can already see the yellow thing there when I run the program is because you do not have a small letter A in your program. What have you used? A capital letter A. So you need to, and we have said that Python is case sensitive. So which means if you have used capital letters, you have to stick to it. Now, if I write this, and let's say the user entered the value of length as 5 and breadth as 3, you will directly get an answer saying 15. But what is 15? What does 15 represent? So instead, I would want to give a message. Messages in print are always written in quotes. So I write the area of the rectangle. Now remember, this message is purely your decision of what you want to write. Is equal to, or is, or colon, whatever, your method, comma. So first you get the message, the area of the rectangle is equal to, and now I actually want to display the area. And where is the area stored? In variable A, so I write A. Is that clear? So let's just run the program. It's asking me for the length, I entered 5. It's asking me for the breadth, I entered 3. Now remember, I've written float. So internally in the program, it's going to be storing it as 5.0 and 3.0, okay? And therefore you will see your answer as 15.0 because you said float. Instead of float, if you had said int, then it would just take it as 5 and 3 and giving you 15. Is that clear? So this is a small program. Let me do one more program so that you get used to the input. Basically, programming, we are going to learn lots of them as we proceed. But, you know, just by doing the first chapter, if you get into Spyder and if you can start programming, I mean, you will be so excited and so happy about learning programming. Okay, so for your purpose, let me just do another program, one small program. It says write a program to read two numbers and to display addition, subtraction, multiplication of and division of the two numbers. Okay, so will I need to be reading the two numbers from the user? Yes. Now into which variable will I read? Some may say A and B, some may say X and Y. I'm saying N1 is equal to, that's up to me, okay? So I write float, input, enter first number, okay? And similarly, I will have to read the second number. Now, do you think I could have written, okay, my spelling for input is wrong. Do you think I could have written N instead of N1? Could I write 1N? No, identifiers rule doesn't allow us to begin with a digit. So N2 is equal to float in bracket input in bracket enter second number. Okay, so I read the second number also from the user. Now what do I want to do? I want to display the addition, the multiplication, the division, and the subtraction. Okay, I could use 4 different variables to store these answers, but if I just have to display this, I could even say this, print, N1 plus N2, comma, N1 minus N2, comma, N1 multiplied by N2, comma, N1 divided by N2. I'm purposely doing this so that I show you that you can also write expressions in your print. So it will take the value of N1, it will take the value of N2, add it and show as the first answer. Similarly, the subtraction, similarly, the multiplication and the division. Let's just run the program and see. It's asking me first number, let's say 10. It's asking me second number, let's say 3. Can you see 13.0 because that's the addition of 10 plus 3. 7.0 because that's the subtraction there. 30 because 10 into 3. And then when I do 10 divided by 3, I got the division. We know this is in this format. Is that clear? Okay. But if you wanted to give appropriate messages, the sum is, the difference is, what could I do? I could write the sum is and put a comma. Similarly, before displaying the subtraction, I could write the difference is, and you show the difference. Okay, I'm just showing both these as of now. I hope you have understood. So I don't need to write for all of them. So now what will I get? The sum is and the answer, the difference is and the answer. So let's just run the program. Let me enter some 2 other numbers. Let's say 6 and 4. So sum is 10, the difference is 2. Now what if I want the sum is 10 on one line and the difference is on the other line. We just learned that if we introduce /n, everything that you write after a /n will be forced to go to the next line. Do you wish to see it? Yes. Okay. Let me say now it's 15 and 5. Okay. So the sum is 20 and the difference is 10. Is that clear? So are you sure about how input works, what print does, how do I do a calculation? Now all these calculated values, I could have stored it into variable, like I stored the calculation of length into breadth into a variable called A. Or I could have directly displayed it. I just wanted to show it to you in two forms so that you know that it can be done. Print can not just display variables and strings, it can also display some expressions or evaluations to be done. Clear? So I hope with this, the first chapter on Python fundamentals is clear to you and you're thorough with it. You have any doubts, go back, watch it once again, and I'm sure that if you watch in order, Python fundamentals is going to be a piece of cake for you. Is that clear? See you in the next video. Bye. Thank you for now.